viewers, we are trying to find the right spot. It's about 30 degrees outside. We're walking uphill in the snow both ways.
Welcome to another exciting episode of TechUOut. I'm here with Toni, and we're this one's called The Hunt, and we wanted to go on the hunt. We're actually bow hunting for a deer, and we want to talk about some different ways the phone can help you when you're hunting. And we got some things and apps and
yeah, a whole lot of things.
All kinds of things that this little thing can help you hunting. I never even thought about all the things that we came up that you can use a phone for.
You know, and it's funny because I actually started seeing hunters when they first started using smartphones and all that, and seeing the use of them when they were hunting, because when I first started hunting, I was like 9, and you know, we didn't have smartphones, and so everybody used walkie-talkies, and they were loud, and you had to talk. And then when, you know, the smartphones came about, there were so many more options like texting. And then along with that, as smartphones advanced, there was more features that hunters are starting to utilize. And so we were thinking, since it's getting to that time of the year, you know, bow season starting now, rifle season, black powder, that this would be a good opportunity to help you guys out and talk to you about how you can use these to have a more successful hunt.
So, like when you're hunting, like before you had the invention of the cell phone, How would you find your way? Like, which way is north? How would you find which way is north?
To be honest, it depended. Like, for me, when I went hunting back then, I was young, so I went with my dad, and my dad has that natural compass in his head, and so he just knew. But there was a lot of people, especially over east, because it's a whole lot different than here.
Yeah.
I mean, you go in and there's trees everywhere, and it all looks the same, and There's people who would take colored tape and tie them to trees to help them remember their way back.
Okay.
And leave things on the path that were reflective so they could see them in the dark with their flashlights.
Yeah, I've read about, you know, how like they say moss grows on the north side of the tree, and then like if you're hunting at night, you know, you always got the North Star.
Yeah.
So kind of different ways like that. But if you have your cell phone, there's a compass right on here.
Yeah, the new iPhones have a compass app that comes on them already. All you have to do is calibrate it right quick. It takes a second.
Yeah,
and
just
you already
go like
know
that,
which
and
direction
it'll
north
tell you
is.
which way's north.
Yeah.
So
that's very handy, especially, of course, you have to pay attention, you know, which way you left your vehicle, but you could do that with that app too. Like, okay, I'm heading west now. I need to head east again to get back here.
Yeah, they actually have apps out there that you can push like record, and it'll track which way you go. Like, so you go out in the woods. I used it one time. We're at a corn maze with the youth group, and we went out, and I just wanted to see if it worked. So I pushed record, and it showed us every which way we went through that maze and out in one direction, and it was pretty neat. But I could see how you could relate with hunting using something like that kind of app. So like you leave your car, and then you go out in the woods, and you're like, man, which way's back to the vehicle? You just look at that app.
Yeah, exactly, and that's really nice, especially for people who are hunting in areas they're not familiar with.
Or first-time hunters.
Yeah, first-time hunters for sure. Actually, me and Emanuel have been hunting this morning, trying to get a deer for the show, and we went into some pretty thick stuff, and so I asked him, I was like, can you find your way back? And he was like, is this the right way?
I found my way back. Don't let her lie to you.
No, he did it. He did a good job.
I found the exact path right up to a certain area, and then I was like, this ain't quite the right way, but I know which way the vehicle is, so I just kind of pushed through the big grass, because the grass was pretty much, well, about your size, really.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was pretty thick, but we found our way back, and I thought I did okay.
Yeah, he did good.
Did all right. I didn't use my GPS tracker or GPS to find my way home.
That's right, but you could do that.
You could, and that's the good thing about having this. And something I did even before we got out here is I checked the weather app. And I knew it was going to be nice weather. It was like 50 degrees, 55 degrees this morning. Beautiful weather. The wind wasn't really that bad.
No,
it's
it
kind of
wasn't bad
picked
at
up a
all.
little bit now, but feels good, really.
Yeah, and that's what we've been doing last few days, is monitoring on our phones what the weather would be like. Today was, yesterday was cooler than Sunday. Today's Tuesday, and we were hoping that since the cold front had came in, that would get some stuff moving. And another thing I did was I used an app to look at the moon phases, because you want to go when the moon's darker or not as bright, because that means the deer haven't been running around at night as much.
Yeah. Let's go and talk about our hunt just a little bit, and we'll get some more into the apps in here just a little bit. But about our hunt, we were going and we saw several tracks.
Yeah.
And there was something that you saw, and what did you say it was? Like a scrape?
Yeah, deer do two kinds of scrapes. Bucks will rub their antlers on a small tree or branch and mark their territory that way, or sometimes they scrape the ground with their hoofs and say, this is my turf, stay out of it.
And that's why they kind of do that, right?
It's claiming the land, and we saw some of that, and we saw some bedding areas where they'd been laying down.
There's several of those.
Yeah,
right
we saw
in there, in
several
that
of
tall
those.
grass, little bed areas. It's actually kind of the first time I really went hunting. I've went shooting and bow. I guess it'd be shooting too, bow shooting and shooting guns, and I've never really went hunting, but it's pretty fun. I've learned a lot on this trip, kind of like that with the tracks, and I've seen tracks before because I like to be outdoors. I like to do stuff like this. And I thought that was interesting because there's a bunch of little bed areas when we're going through the tall grass. And Toni was like, this is where they were sleeping. And I was like, awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of things like that you can pass right by and never even know that they were there if you're not looking for them, you know?
Yeah, and we kind of found their trail that they were using, and we kind of used that same trail to get back to where we were finding a good area to hunt. And it was pretty neat. And then we saw some other interesting things on the way up there. You want to describe on that stuff?
Oh, we found some coyote poop and
some droppings.
Yeah. We actually.
Did you step in the droppings?
No, I didn't. Actually.
I thought you did.
No. Well,
no. Okay. Okay, just checking.
I didn't.
I don't think I did either. No, I'm good. I'm good.
We actually saw a few elk tracks back there too.
There's quite a bit there, and kind of in the riverbed.
Yeah.
It was pretty soft. It was pretty moist down in the riverbed, and had some pretty good tracks.
Yeah, we actually set up a spot. We didn't get to scout this area much before we came out here this morning, so we kind of found a spot and sat down. We're gonna see what happened. But we did some scouting after that once, the good hours got over, and so
got a pretty good area, I
spot.
think, that we could come back and hopefully get a deer. We haven't got a deer yet, but the goal is to get a deer for our viewers and kind of show you the first-hand experience. We got the GoPro with us right along, and hopefully we get a deer.
Yeah, and hopefully we can donate it to somebody who needs it.
Yeah.
And we'll appreciate it. So.
That's right. There's an app that you were using, actually talking about the hunt in apps. There's an app that you're using with different sounds.
Yeah. Actually, this morning it's getting later in the morning, and I was hoping to kind of bring something in. So I pulled up an app on my phone, and basically it's got a bunch of different calls. Like if you're predator hunting, deer hunting, whatever you want to do, it's got like buck grunts and doe bleats and all kinds of stuff to try to attract them. And so some people like to be traditional and still use the old-fashioned calls, but honestly, there's nothing wrong with the electronic calls either that you can download.
Yeah. Another thing is, another app that we can talk about is, like, if you're camping, there's another one that does a sound for mosquitoes.
Yeah, last year when I was bow hunting, we had just had a rain, and I was down by the riverbed back where we were, but on the other side, and I was surprised how big the mosquitoes were out here. Like, there were like these vulture-sized mosquitoes landing on me and everywhere, and I was getting tired of it. It was just miserable. So I didn't know what to do, and so I typed mosquito app in the app store, and sure enough, there was one right there. And so I downloaded it, and I didn't think it would work, but it actually worked really good, and it put out a frequency that the human ear can't hear, but it would make them leave you alone. I don't know if the deer could hear it or not, but I was desperate and I didn't care at that point.
Yeah, I've heard about that app before, and it's just basically a high frequency, because I believe the human ear can only hear up to about 20,000 hertz, and it's right up there on that top
Register
spectrum.
there, yeah.
And I have never tried it, but it's interesting that it did work for you, because I heard about that in like dog whistles and stuff like that. It's just that higher frequency. I think like on my hearing, it's probably about 18,000 hertz. I took an audio class and kind of learned about that. But I think my ear's actually getting better now that I'm working with audio a lot.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting because you can train your ear. Even being out there this morning, when you're just sitting there, you can just kind of listen. You can hear different things, and it actually got to be quite noisy, listening to different things. A lot of the birds and things like that you can hear. And
yeah, and you don't realize until you get out there what quiet like really is, and how loud just simple movement can be.
Just taking a step, you're like, man, I'm trying to be quiet so I don't scare the deer, and you're making noise when you're trying not to make noise. And I thought that was kind of interesting, because I could hear everything, and it was cool.
Yeah.
I was trying to be quiet like a ninja, and I thought I did all right.
Yeah, he actually did really well. I'd say out of all the people I've taken hunting for the first time, that you were the best one so far. So.
Yes. Toni actually taught me how to walk when you hunt. You're supposed to walk with the heel first, and then kind of roll your foot. And I tried to do that I don't know what you call it, that technique, and just kind of go through the wilderness without making a whole lot of noise. So
yeah, you're always going to make a little bit, but that helps because it spreads out the weight if you roll into it.
Okay.
And that way you're not, you know.
Yeah, and you want to walk soft. You don't want to make a lot of noise. Kind of train your breathing so that you're not like running out of air and breathing loud. And something else that we did too is that you sprayed us down. Well, you sprayed you, and then I used some of it too. Was that scent blocker? And can you tell me a little bit about that? Because I don't know much about that.
Yeah, basically what it does is we all have human scent on us, on our clothing, and we can't even smell it really, but they smell it.
Sometimes I smell it on people.
Yeah, and well.
Just joking.
Well, there's some people that do.
but
yeah, like
it helps keep the smell
block
down, so that because the animals are pretty sensitive to everything, and they can smell. So we put that. What's it called?
Yeah, it's a scent blocker.
Scent blocker.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it just gets rid of that.
And gets rid of your scent, so that the deer can't smell you. And then if they can't smell you, and they can't hear you, and they can't see you, most likely you're going to get you a deer. And that's kind of the whole point, right?
Yeah, and there's been times where their nose is so sensitive that even when I've used that stuff, there's been times where they've still been able to get a quick smell of human scent, and then they're like, I'm out of here. So you have to try to be upwind from them, so
that's
that
something
won't
else
happen.
to think about.
Yeah.
Being upwind. Another thought that I had: what if you forget your flashlight?
The great thing about that, and this is one of those improvements I was talking about, that it's kind of new that they started doing, but now the phones have a flashlight built into them. And so let's say that you're going and you forget your flashlight at the house, you can use your flashlight app or widget on your phone and use that as a flashlight.
Yeah, I used mine this morning just to kind of check it out. I did have a flashlight, but flashlight on my iPhone works really well. All you do is slide it up, and then it's just right there on my menu.
Yeah, and it helps quite a bit, especially if you get set down and you realize you forgot to get something out of your bag and you already put your flashlight up. You're like, oh, well, I got this right here.
Yeah. Another story I gotta tell you before we run out of time is, like, have you ever done one of those little survival guide things, like, could you survive, in the wilderness or in the desert, something like that? And like one of the top ones usually on that list is a mirror. Have you ever heard that before?
I hadn't heard that. But...
A mirror. And I was thinking, you could probably use your phone to kind of reflect the sun.
Or even turn on the camera and flip it to the front camera.
And then you could do the flashlight if it's night. But I was thinking you could reflect the sun and get someone's attention if you needed help.
Yeah.
Because I did one of those for the leadership Guyman class, one of the little survival, like, what would you need? What would you take? Take a big coat, you take water, and you had to list them, and the mirror was pretty high on the list. And I thought that was interesting, but you could also use your phone because it's glass. And see, look, I got you.
Sunglasses.
But that's just a little bit of information I wanted to let our viewers know.
Yeah, and with the way that the phone's cameras are nowadays, not only can you, take a picture of your trophy once you get it, but also you can use that to help you zoom in. Let's say if you forgot your binoculars like I did today, to see if what you're looking at is actually what you think it is or not.
Yeah.
And then back to the front camera, if you wanted to look behind you, you could kind of just,
Like you didn't want to turn your head, you could kind of see. Talking about the camera, once you get your big deer, then you can take a picture and put it on Facebook or Instagram or whatever else, Twitter.
Yeah, you don't have to wait until you get it to the processor or whatever. You can do it right then and there.
You just take the picture and uplink it. And talking about that, we're out here in the middle of nowhere, and I got 3 bars right now, and we're in the middle of nowhere, and
we've got a PTCI phone and a Verizon phone here. The Verizon phone right now only has 1 bar.
Only 1?
It's mostly had 2, actually.
Mine's been going from about 2 to 4, and right now it went to 2.
Yeah, highest I've gotten on my Verizon one so far has been a 3 in one spot, but in that mostly a 2.
Yeah.
So one thing we were wanting to talk to you guys about is, a cell phone's not a landline phone, but it's a very good idea to have a cell phone with you if you're going out into the woods, especially if you're going alone. But, that's kind of our expertise, is that our phones are the best in the rural areas out here.
Well, out here in the Panhandle area, we have a lot of towers out here, and, I kind of like what Randy was talking to me about the other day, was your phone's probably going to work 80%, 85% of the time, and then there's going to be times when it's not. And, like, especially, you get out here in the middle of nowhere in a valley, you want to expect it to work.
Yeah.
But like right now, I've been checking mine since we've been out here. It's been working, but I know there's a lot of places that it doesn't work. But that's part of having a cell phone versus a landline. So we just kind of want y'all to know that it's not always going to work.
Yeah.
But 80% of the time it's pretty good not to be hooked in, and you're kind of subject to the airwaves. And I know the wind, moisture, and have a lot to do with receiving that signal.
But at the same time, it's one of those things that you should probably have if you're going to be coming out.
It is good to have, because even if you didn't have bars, you could always get somewhere or to a main road or something like that where you have some bars, so you can make that call.
Just in case, because there's rattlesnakes that are around even later in the season than people expect.
Yeah, and that's even kind of when it's scarier, because sometimes when it's a little cold, they don't rattle.
Yeah. And so that's what we've kind of been watching for out here, just in case.
Just in case.
But hey, we got our phones if we need to call Apollo or whoever. So.
Yeah, and that hunting's fun, but we just want our viewers to know you have to be safe.
Yep.
Even with the bow, a lot of people are like, oh, it's a bow, but you gotta be safe with the bow even.
Yeah, because
you don't want to be like walking around pointing it at people.
Yeah.
There's safety things you got to take in consideration.
Because the broadhead on a bow is razor sharp, and you don't want to run into somebody with that and cut them or anything like that. But yeah, you always need to take safety precautions when you're hunting, no matter what you're doing it with.
Yeah, and we just recommend getting out, being out in the woods, being out in the wilderness, and have a good time and be safe and get a deer.
Yeah.
You do have to have what do you have to have? You have to have a license, right?
Yep, you have to have a hunting license in the state of Oklahoma to hunt deer.
How do you get your license?
You have to go through a training course, basically. It's a hunter safety course where they teach you the basics of gun safety, and when you can shoot and when you can't. Like if there is a deer up on the horizon on top of a hill, that would be a bad idea to shoot at it, or if it had water behind it, because as far as the hill goes, you don't know what's behind that hill.
Yeah.
And as far as the water goes, bullets can ricochet off water and go somewhere else, and you don't know where it's going to go then. So you have to be aware of not only your own surroundings, but what's surrounding the deer as well.
Yeah, so you got to be aware, and then especially when you're hunting with people, or even if you're not hunting with people, because there could be another group out there. I know we've ran into a few people out here since we've been hunting.
Yeah, and we've been trying to avoid them.
It's Tuesday, so it don't matter what day of the week it is. There's probably someone that's going to be hunting.
Yeah, and you don't want to mess anybody else up, and at the same time, you don't want to put anybody else or yourself in danger by pointing a gun or something like that at somebody on accident.
That's right.
And they also talk about trigger safety and some of the stuff we talked about in our bulletproof episode. But that's the main thing you need in the state of Oklahoma.
You had a bulletproof episode?
With the screen protectors.
I know. I'm still amazed by that when we're doing that. It's just the AR-15, 10 yards away, hit the screen protector, didn't go through. Right in the middle of the phone.
Yeah,
I thought that was
crazy.
awesome. So I underneath this, I got a whole bunch of those screen protectors. I made a suit of it. Just joking. But yeah, I'm still amazed by that. But like even on the hunt, as we were hunting today, I've learned a lot as we went out there and kind of going through the trail. Bugs outside. And I've had a great time. If you're not a morning person,
go in the evening.
Try to become one. No, morning was good.
Yeah, it is.
You're out there and
it's
just trying to get a deer, and
it's one of those rare things that it's exciting, but it's also peaceful at the same time.
It is peaceful. I can see how you can get your adrenaline going though, because when you start to hear. We probably did hear something, because I did hear something moving, but
yeah, we both heard something over there.
It didn't come by us, but it gets your adrenaline going, and you're ready to get your bow and shoot a deer and accomplish something.
And then it's even worse when the big one steps out and you're like, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah,
that's how I felt when that one stepped out a few years ago with me.
How far was that one from you?
He wasn't that far. He was maybe 25 yards. And I was trying to stay awake. I was in eastern Oklahoma hunting, actually, and I was tired because it had been a few-day hunt. And
so you hunted for 5 days, you said?
It was a few days. It was
a few days?
2 or 3 days.
Okay, I thought you said 5.
No, but my brother and I were both over there.
Yeah.
And my eyes were heavy, and I was like kind of trying to stay awake, and when I looked up, he was right there, and he was moving by really quick. And so I had to try to figure out, where I could get a shot at him. He had 2 openings left.
So what were you hunting with at that time?
At that time it was a rifle. It
Rifle?
It was just a little .223.
223?
Which is what we shot at the screen protector.
Is that that story that you're telling me that you shot and then you scared all of them away and your brother had one in his sights?
No, that's actually, it was the same hunt. It was the day before.
The day before?
Yeah.
I remember you telling me about that you shot and you scared his away or something came out.
I actually scared 2 deer away from him on accident.
You sure it was on accident?
Yeah, because I was hunting a little ways away from him, and over there's a hog problem, and hogs.
That's right, it was a hog.
Yeah, hogs travel in packs, and sometimes they even attack people, and some of them ran in on me, and I didn't realize they were going to be that close, and so I just shot at them to scare them. I didn't hit any of them. I just shot at the ground to scare them.
Yeah.
And they took off, but my brother was trying to shoot a buck right then when I shot, and it scared him off. And then after I shot my deer, I guess this other deer got curious and came to investigate. And he was walking up there behind me, and I didn't know it. I was standing there, and I turned around, and I just saw something take off, and my brother's like, "Toni, I was about to shoot that one." And I was like,
2 in one day.
Sorry.
That's sad.
That's the way the cookie crumbled.
I feel bad for your brother.
Well, he had actually went there the year before and missed another gigantic deer that was way bigger than any of those that we saw.
Yeah.
And he shot right over the top of him, so he can't say much. He got buck fever.
Usually on that, how far do you try to shoot the deer from?
It depends. There's a lot of people who try to exaggerate, but if you're a serious hunter who is considering the well-being of the deer and not wanting to take a risky shot where you could injure one, you probably don't need to be shooting over 200, 250 yards.
Okay.
And it depends on the caliber that you're using too. But, with people that say they take a 500-yard shot, my thinking on that is, okay, maybe you could do that, but you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want to do is hurt an animal and injure it. But I've had them come up to me as close from me to you before.
That's pretty close.
As far as 250 yards away that I've taken, so it depends.
That's pretty cool. Can you tell me about your funnest hunt that you ever been on? Would that be the same one?
No, that one was really fun, but I would have to say my first deer that I ever got was my favorite because my dad and I had actually built this blind. It was made of wood, and we sawed it and nailed it all together and went and put it out in the woods. And him and the guy that owned the land had cleared some shooting lanes because in eastern Oklahoma, it's not like out here, like you can see a ways, like
it's not
open. They had to clear some areas where you could shoot through. And my dad and I had been hunting in a different location that morning, and I was like, "Dad, I want to go to our blind that we made." And he wasn't thinking there'd be anything over there at that time. He thought it was more of an evening spot.
Yeah.
And he didn't think anything was coming in, so he's like, "Oh, okay." So we go, and about 15 minutes after we get there, this doe comes and stands right in the middle of that shooting lane. And it was just the perfect shot, everything about it.